And I did.
Recording.
I'm recording. I
Recording.
did it first.
I did it
No.
faster.
I did it.
Fastest.
Bullshit! I hate it here. No, I was just watching you sway back and forth. Aloha. Aloha. And that's not with voice modulation. That's all you.
That's all me. I can do chipmunks, Pennywise, and a British person.
I mean, British person-ish.
Hello, governor.
Oh, let's stop that. See, like you say it and it sounds like even though you're white, it sounds racist. What's up, everybody? I'm Richard.
And I'm Shawn.
And we're speaking the language of bromance. And Shawn, today we are going to we're gonna take a proverbial thermometer that is our opinion, and we're going to take the temperature of something that we have been heavily invested in for the last now 12 years.
Yeah.
The Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah, and it's kind of tying into probably a little bit more of just the most recent, because I think we did a WandaVision kind of breakdown. But
we did.
Since then, there's been Falcon and Winter Soldier. We had some Loki.
Yeah.
And then we got our first Marvel movie in almost over a year, Black Widow, which you have not yet seen.
I have not yet seen.
So I'm going to...
And honestly, I am not... Maybe you can convince me otherwise, but at this point, I'm not super, like, hyped to watch it.
Yeah.
I'm not like, oh my God, I need that Black Widow in my veins.
We were talking about it before, and I was like, I really liked it. It was a good movie. You're like, yeah, but it's a woman lead. And I was like, Richard!
Whoa. Well, bow me out.
No, I wanted to see it in theaters, but didn't. Just
didn't do one stitch of laundry through the whole film. Not once did I see a sandwich.
I'm out.
Yeah.
And then my wife punched me in the face.
Yes. Internet, begin your canceling now.
But I think, honestly, not to jump too far ahead to Black Widow, because maybe we could go into kind of the chronological order. But I think the problem Black Widow has is, like, you were, like, teased with it. Like, it was supposed to come out, like, summer of 20.
Yeah.
And it was a nice little lull from, the end of Endgame. This was going to be one you could get back into. But it's kind of been out there
Well, it wasn't the end of Endgame. It would have been, because you had Endgame, the movie after Endgame, everybody forgets, the movie after Endgame was Spider-Man.
Yeah. But this was the one...
Because it was Endgame, then Spider-Man... And then it was supposed to be Black Widow.
Yeah. Because Spider-Man came out, I think, November, December? When did that come out?
It's supposed to be, it was
2019 that came out.
It was November of 19. Because, it was Spider-Man, and then it was supposed to be Black Widow in May of 2020.
Yep.
That was the plan.
And that got punted, and punted.
It did.
And punted. And punted, and finally Disney said, "Listen, we're going to release it in theaters and on your Disney Plus for $30 hairs."
Yeah.
So, but I guess, so you haven't seen Black Widow yet. I have not seen all of Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Oh, you didn't finish Falcon?
I'm about 4 episodes into it, and I had a little bit of a tough time kind of getting fully invested into it. Like, I liked it, but not as much as I don't know if Loki really had my attention as much either. But
at this point, have you been, quote, spoiled on Falcon and Winter Soldier? I mean, there really isn't. I would say that there really isn't much to get spoiled on.
Yeah, I know Falcon becomes Captain America.
Correct.
Because I think I'm about halfway through, because there's a super soldier serum going around.
Right. Right.
I'm trying to think why. and I wonder if it kind of has like the Heroes season 2 feel to me, that, you know, it's one of those things that you knew they were about halfway into it when the pandemic started. And so you can kind of feel where like there's a lot of corner cutting, maybe, or maybe I let my meta.
I would say like a shifting of gears. But
break down some of the Winter Soldier stuff for me. What'd you think of it since you saw all of it?
Well, I think I went into Falcon and Winter Soldier kind of thinking that it was going to be similar to Captain America and the Winter Soldier, like the movie, which I would say that it is in its tone, but not necessarily with its execution. I would say that, like, execution wise, it is definitely like, you can tell this does not have a film budget. And I'm not saying that to be shitty. Like, I guess I'm just saying that in terms of the scale of things, the scale of fights seemed a lot smaller. And maybe that was, maybe that was intentional.
Yeah, I mean, you look at WandaVision. WandaVision did look more expensive. Yes. Loki looked a lot more expensive. So yes. I do feel, and it's, there isn't a lot of like super magic stuff in the episodes I saw for Winter Soldier, Falcon.
Oh, and yeah, there isn't. There won't be.
So that could have been there. Because I feel like whenever they bring Hawkeye out, like, you're probably going to get a very similar feel between Falcon, Winter Soldier, and Hawkeye. Right.
Yeah, I'm curious. Well, I think the teaser at the end of Black Widow, I think, kind of is more of a setup for Hawkeye than anything else.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
and it's kind of the what's funny about that is it's kind of the I don't know what you'd call it, but just like a big misunderstanding. So I'm kind of curious if that's going to get like old really quick.
I will say, okay, there is actually one thing I think that maybe this is a spoiler or maybe it isn't, but there is connective tissue between Black Widow and Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yeah. So yeah, spoilers for this whole thing, and you can spoil that for me because I saw her show up. I'm like, hey, that's the chick from Seinfeld. Dreyfus. Yeah. And I was like, where'd she come from?
Yeah.
And then I think somebody explained to me that she shows up somewhere in Falcon Winter Soldier.
Okay. That's honestly the only thing. Her name is Valentina Contessa. She's got like 5 names. Because
she's basically like the next Nick Fury, or like...
She is Lady Hydra.
Oh, okay.
For lack of a better description, she in the comics, she like I could say she was like a double agent, like she worked for SHIELD and she also worked for Hydra, but then things got super, super murky and you actually didn't know who she was working for because you thought she was working for SHIELD, but it turns out she's Hydra, but then she's not actually working for Hydra. She's working for this other group called Leviathan. And you don't actually, I feel like you never 100% figured out where her quote unquote loyalties lie, but suffice to say that it's not good. And my guess is that I think that Hawkeye will probably put that storyline or that antagonist, whatever the antagonist on that scale will be, whatever,
So
because in Marvel Phase 1, 1 through 4, what do we have? We had in Marvel Phase 1 through 4, there were 2 main antagonists throughout all those movies, and there was Thanos, of course, like the big bad at the end that that the Avengers face and defeat in Endgame, but the other one was Hydra. Like Hydra was always kind of that underlying thing, Hydra, you had him in, they get introduced in Captain America, then Winter Soldier comes around, and then you find out that they didn't actually go away, that they've been around. You had that whole Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show, which basically dealt with Hydra. You got to the beginning of Avengers Age of Ultron, they were dealing with Hydra. It's the reason that gave us, Wanda and, and Pietro.
Yeah, Quicksilver.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they're kind of like the bug that never goes away, or the itch that never gets scratched.
Well, it's like
they're just always kind of there.
It's like there were two different scaled villains. There's the small scale villain, and then there's the big scale villain. The small scale villain then was Hydra, and the big scale villain was Thanos. And now I feel like it seems like there's a parallel path going where you have a small scale villain, which is whatever Contessa's doing, which I'm guessing is going to be either Hydra or maybe something different like AIM or Leviathan, or throw a dart and fucking hit 20 different evil organization names. But that's your small scale villain, right? That's who your normies deal with, your Hawkeye, your Black Widow, your
non-superpowered
superheroes. Your Falcon, like that's, your new Captain America, like that's where that goes. Now, so I would say that Falcon and Winter Soldier definitely works to set up that small scale antagonist, or at least it definitely lays the groundwork for it. I mean, there's other things that happen too. Obviously, like Sam gets a shield and he's got his wings. He's got that brand spanking new outfit. And, like Falcon and Winter Soldier, that show went places that I did not expect that show to go. And I'm speaking purely from a standpoint on like having conversations about things like, race in America and, what, our opinions about how we treat other people, whether they're old or whether they're poor or not white. I mean, I did not expect, I did not expect a Disney show, because Marvel's a Disney show. I did not expect a Disney show to address those issues. That actually really surprised me.
And it's pretty early on because they go talk to except this is an episode I saw, was the Isaiah Bradley, I believe was the name of the guy.
Yeah.
Who they essentially from here it sounded like he was before Bucky, or before Captain America.
After, around Korea. Okay. So the 50s. Yeah. So by this point, Cap's in the ice.
Yeah, so they were trying to recreate it, I guess.
Yeah.
Which is because that's based off of a comic run.
Yeah. Isaac
Wasn't
Bradley.
The comic run set up
at
so
one
that
point Isaac had the suit, and I believe at one point also had a shield. He picked up that mantle
in that series.
Yeah, I can't remember how it went, but for a Disney show I did not think that was going to go there, and I'm really glad that it did, because it really helped. It helped ground that show and make it much more relatable and real. In a world of gods and monsters and fucking sorcerers and aliens and androids, it's hard to find it relatable, because you're like, those things. I don't see androids flying over my head in the real world.
Yeah, trying to ground it a little bit more and kind of open up conversations.
Yeah, and I like that. I like that. So, I can poo-poo it on one hand for being, a lot less grandiose in terms of scale, but I think that helps it. I think that's needed. Like, fucking Sam doesn't have super strength. He doesn't have, like, he's got some fucking metal wings and a shield. Like, that's his.
Yeah.
He's just a dude. At the end of the day, he's just a dude.
Yeah. And it's kind of like the first early episodes, like even just, a normal person trying to deal with everyday stuff, right? Like you said, you're not Tony Stark and have tons of money.
Yeah.
So, it asks the questions of like, well, what do they do for money? They're government agents or whatever, but what's the government salary? It didn't seem like they're getting paid very much, if anything.
Exactly.
So it really kind of opened up those types of questions.
Yeah. I was more impressed with Falcon and Winter Soldier than I thought I would be, because, and I did know, I had a inkling of what I was getting into when I was watching it. But like I said, the topics they covered and stuff like that, like, really surprised me in a good way. I liked it. I was happy.
Well, I think they did it. The couple episodes I saw, they did a good job of kind of sprinkling it in, so it didn't feel like they were trying to be super overhanded with it.
Yes.
Like they weren't trying to beat you with this like moral club.
Mm-hmm.
It was just more of a, here's an interaction. You're like, well, that seems kind of weird.
Yeah.
But one show that I think did you have anything else you want to say about that?
No. I'm trying to think. I was like, okay, like Black Widow, talked about that. And you got WandaVision, which we did a whole episode on covering WandaVision and how that went.
Well, and the one that just finished up, which is, I think, really kind of catapulting us into phase 4, is the Loki series.
Okay, like, full disclosure, like, I was in the bag for this show before the credits rolled. So, yeah. I mean, if you're going to ask me, like, which one do you prefer? Like, it's, before I had even watched Loki, I would have said Loki.
Yeah,
so,
and I'm enjoying, like, Loki, like, this is the only complaint I have with these Disney shows is when you hit play, you'll see like 45 minutes for the episode length, which isn't bad, but like 15 minutes of it's credits.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like whenever you finish, I don't know if you do this, but I have to sit there and like speed through it just to make sure there's no end credits that I'm going to miss.
I do that. I usually because a lot of times I'll be watching it on my computer, so I'll just tick my mouse along the bar. And just look, I'm like, okay, credits. Wait, what's that? Okay, more credits. All right. And you just wait for that Georgia Peach. The second you see that Georgia Peach, and you're like, okay, there's nothing here.
Done. Yeah, I know the last episode, like I watched like 25 or 30 minutes of it, and then something came up, so I had to stop. I'm like, oh, I've got like 20 minutes left of this. And I got to where I could watch it. It was literally like 8 minutes. I was like, oh, like I could have powered through this. But I thought it was I thought they did a good job with Loki, because the beginning of Loki is the last place that we saw him in Endgame.
Yes.
He's picking up that cube. He's, going through time, and all of a sudden we see this TVA show up, and instantly you're kind of like, okay, this is the ride we're going on.
Well, he doesn't go through time. He uses the Tesseract, and then he ends up in Mongolia. Same time, different place.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
because then that's but he started the branch.
Yes, and that's when the TVA shows up.
Which I liked how it like kicked into like this is what it is, and even when he's in there, you get a pretty good explanation of okay, here's what this place is, here's what it's all about. They talk about and of course like there's the multitude of the multiverse of madness coming, and we've heard rumors about the new Spider-Man movie. And so they do a good job of kind of like showing like how this potentially could happen in the beginning.
Yes.
And I know a lot of people were thinking like this was going to be like, because you saw all these different timestamps that Loki looked to be in, like, when he was DB Cooper. And so like a lot of people were like thinking it's like, well, is his job with the TVA going to be to go back in time, and he's basically going to be these things? And right away in that first episode, or maybe it was the second one, but you learn that he was DB Cooper on a dare from a Thor.
Yeah. He was just DB Cooper. It had nothing. It was just,
It's just what it was.
Like, it's like, I guess I just imagine like Thor and Loki and Heimdall, and they're just sitting around a table, and they're just like pounding down drinks. And the Thor's like, what you should do? You should rob a bank and then get on a plane and jump out of the plane. No, I'm not going to do that. No, you should. It'd be awesome. It'd be... Heimdall, he'll make sure you come back, right? I don't think this is the best use of your father's. Shut up. You'll do it though, right?
As you command. Yeah, the dare is that he's got to rob this bank and get to a certain point with a certain amount of dollars. And when he gets back, because some of it fell out and floated to the ground, that was the money he was missing.
Yeah.
But, really good. I like that they, Sylvie, female Loki, or Lady Loki. Although I don't think she's going to be back for season 2, I heard.
Yeah, I don't know. So Sylvie in the comics was Enchantress, and her powers were like she wasn't in the comics. She was not a Loki, but her powers were given to her by Loki.
Yeah, it seemed like they kind of mixed the two characters with this.
Yeah. I liked Sylvie's character. I was totally fine with it. I mean, I feel like that character was inherently flawed, and those cracks don't start to show until the very last episode, which I thought was kind of cool.
In what way? Just the breakdown on how she couldn't trust?
Well, not really so much that she couldn't trust, but that she was like so driven to this goal, which, I mean, like, she says it throughout. She's like, oh, like, I will not rest until, but like, it just seems like, oh, well, like, yeah, that's what you're going to say because you're a movie character or you're a TV show character. Like, you use that fucking, oh, I will not rest. I shall not rest until.
Like, I heard somebody compare it to basically a Karen going to see the manager.
I've heard that
because
too.
They're disappointed.
I've heard
that kind of annoyed me, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because when she was taken from her timeline, and she never knew why, and nobody cared to tell her why, nobody remembered why. It was insignificant enough that they ruined her life for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And she's been on the run since she was like I don't even think she was 12. She was probably like 10.
Yeah.
So for 20 some years, she's bouncing around from time to time. She's going to all these end of the world things. And when she comes to find out, like, well, what was the reason? What did I do wrong to make this happen to me?
Yeah.
Like, oh, I don't remember.
Yeah.
And so, like, wouldn't you have some vengeance on that? Wouldn't you want some answers? And then when you get there, the person's like, you can't tell if they're telling the truth. They're making all this stuff up.
I mean, I think that, like, I would say that she has an overdeveloped sense of vengeance. Whether that vengeance is justifiable or not, I guess that's up for debate. But I would definitely call it an overdeveloped sense of vengeance. Like,
I would say blinded by it for sure.
I guess the only thing that bothered me about Sylvie's character in general was, I mean, really by the end of it, there was no growth for her as a character. Like, she basically was exactly how, when we catch up to her by the end of the series, it's the same person.
I'd agree with that. Like Loki, we see a transition.
Right. Like, well, I mean, I would say everybody kind of has, like, there's an arc and there's a growth to them as a character. Like Loki changes, Mobius changes, B-15 changes, Renslayer changes. Like, they all change. Sylvie's the only static character in that show and ends up being the heel by the end.
Would she be the heel? I think you could argue that she made the wrong... Well, we don't know if she made the wrong decision, per se.
Sure.
But I think, like you were saying, like, I think she was blinded by her vengeance, that even if she could tell that what he was saying was the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there was supposed to be some scenes where they were kind of seeing the worlds they would live in if they took the deal. I
heard that too, that there's some deleted scenes and stuff like that, which I would really, really want to see. Because I saw there's a still image of Loki holding up Thor's hammer.
Yeah. Although it doesn't look like his hammer, which I don't know, that might just be like they hadn't finished the CGI on it.
Yeah.
So that's where I was kind of wondering if it was actually like it wasn't actually Thor's hammer. It was like a replica because he still couldn't pick up the actual one. But, like, so I think that would have added more to her that she felt what she did was right, because if she saw these things like her going back to being a child and growing old and, becoming ruler of, their kingdom and everything.
Yeah.
If you saw like, she saw like, oh, I could have all this, but still in my heart of heart, the right thing to do is to take out this he who remains. I think that would kind of show that she at least processed it and wasn't being just blind to her vengeance.
Yeah.
Because what we see is it's just like, no matter what anybody says, this is what's going to happen.
Yeah. Very, I mean, like, as good as that character was played, which I don't have the actress's name in front of me, but I thought she played the hell out of the character. However, I will say that character had no growth. Like I said, had no growth, and we didn't get to see that character change or evolve at all. Like, she was exactly who she was when we started, which
I agree.
is kind of sad, because like she seemed like a cool character, and I would have liked to see some sort of arc where, I mean, at the very least, just, like, well, now I'm redoubling my efforts because, like, okay, like Drax the Destroyer, Drax the Destroyer starts out Guardians of the Galaxy where he's like, I'm going to kill Ronan because he murdered my family. And then by the end of that movie, he's like, okay, I kind of like you guys. You're all right. But I really want to kill Thanos. Like, he still has the same kind of motivation. But along the way, he carved out a little piece of his heart for, these other fucking misfits. Like, even something like that. Like, there is absolutely no character growth whatsoever for Sylvie, and that's kind of sad, because I think that I could have done more.
I think Sylvie would benefit a lot from a season 2 part 2, because now she's in the stronghold.
Yeah,
she's just killed he who remains, who's Kang, which they don't say Kang, but we know it's Kang.
We know it's Kang.
Which, kudos to him, like the actor.
Oh my god!
Can
you imagine, like, being, I can't think of his name. I can't think of the actor's name, but he was in fucking Lovecraft Country. Mwah, chef's kiss good in Lovecraft Country. Like that. Shawn, I don't know if I know I've told you to watch that show, but I don't know if
Is it Jonathan Majors? Is that his name?
Yes.
Yeah, Jonathan Majors.
Yes. I know I've told you to watch Lovecraft Country.
I've watched a couple episodes, yeah. But what's going to be cool about him too is
he's going to be playing different characters. Yeah. He's going to be like, when we see him next, he's going to be a completely different character, which means it's going to be a completely different performance.
Yes, and this one, like, I think he knocked it out of the park, because, like, you imagine, like, okay, this is a dude that has lived for a long time, has been on the edge of time for who knows how long by himself with a talking clock.
Yeah.
Like, you would expect him to be kind of like Willy Wonka crazy.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, that's definitely the impression I got. Like, the chocolate factory could be yours, Charlie.
Yeah. Which, the question I have with him is, so, like, some people I've heard say that he not knew, but either way he won in this situation, because I think he wanted to be killed. And I don't know if that's kind of a thing of like, oh, well, I've done all this control for so long. It's like, I'm ready to see it all burn. Yeah.
I mean, technically at this point, he isn't necessarily Kang. He's, oh God, the name escapes me. Starts with an I. I don't remember.
Well, there is a He Who Demands It in the Marvel Universe.
There's a He Who Demands It, but I think there's also a He Who Remains. But I can't. There's different. Okay, in the comics, there's different quote unquote iterations of Kang, and they're all, the fact that they pulled his page for page comic book origin, I was really surprised by
because one of them, like the 31st century.
Yeah, where he's like, oh, yeah. I was a scientist from the 31st century, and I'm like, oh my God, this is his exact origin.
I think they're going to probably mix a few of them in there, and that's what's cool is because you can have, because obviously there's tons of probably one-off characters that fit that Kang mold.
Yeah.
that instead of trying to just either
King,
use
Mad King.
You could bring him into this. So it's like, well, that's not technically Kang, but he kind of follows the same pathway.
Yeah.
So let's put him in as one of the iterations. But yeah, I mean, they introduced the big bad.
Yes.
For phase 4 in this.
Yeah, basically. We won't see him again until Ant-Man, I don't think. He's showing up in Doctor Strange. I don't believe so. Could.
I mean, I could see him being like an end credit thing.
Yeah, maybe. Little cameo at the end. That's possible.
I've heard some talk that like Loki season 2 could be like a month or two before Ant-Man and Wasp. So we might see him sprinkled in there.
Okay. Interesting. That I didn't know. I want to talk about the bigger implication with what happened at the end of Loki, because not only do you have your villain introduction, but you also have alternate timelines, which means so here's my thing. Okay. Essentially, now the next show that's coming up is What If, which was one of my favorite comics. I loved What If because they just took these random scenarios, tweaked a little thing, and then you got to see how everything was different. Loved it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now, does this make the What If show a canon show? Because in the comics, What If was just kind of like, hey, this is some comic writers and a few artists, and they're just going off on this, weird tangent, and it has no implications whatsoever in the grand scheme of things. Like, this is exactly what we're saying it is. It's what if this happened? How would things be different? Okay. But now things are slightly different because now you have a multiverse. So does that mean that those scenarios posed in What If, are those actually happening?
I hope so. I hope what we see when we kick this off is that it's not a non-canon What If scenarios. These are different universes that have spawned because of Loki.
And okay, and so to take that a step further, does that mean that characters in the What If show, obviously they could, but do you think that they will see the light of day in the overall cinematic universe? Are we going to see a Captain Carter in the MCU, a Peggy Carter super serumed up, rocking a round shield, kicking ass?
I think potentially. So I know I'll tread light on this because I don't want it to come off insensitive, but unfortunately, we have lost our Black Panther.
We have.
He's
Super
no longer
sad.
with us.
Yeah.
And so there are questions about, okay, well, what's the next step with this? Like, how do we bring on the next Black Panther? And I know a lot of people are saying, it's like, well, it could be a sister, it could be one of the guards.
Yeah.
Like, there's probably a bunch of ideas out there. But one of the things, and one of my favorite characters from that movie was Killmonger.
Killmonger was pretty badass. Great
In the
actor,
MCU,
too.
Killmonger's no longer Michael B. Jordan.
Great
He
actor.
makes a cameo in Space Jam.
Oh, God.
So you don't have Killmonger in the MCU because he's technically not alive anymore.
Right.
But he is in a what if scenario.
Yes.
Saving Tony Stark.
Yes.
So, that could be a way to get Killmonger to come in as your Black Panther.
Could.
And like you said, with Peggy Carter, could you have what's her name in that incarnation? Is it just Captain Britain, Captain England?
I think it was Captain Carter.
Just Captain Carter.
I think so.
I mean, if for some reason like you could bring in Captain Carter, but I think like you could probably I think this is a good way for like at the end of either this first phase 4, or maybe at the end of phase 4, when you try to get everything under one timeline, you can solve some of those issues by bringing in those kind of characters from other timelines.
Yeah.
Like,
and then like,
obviously this is how they're going to bring in X.
Yeah, you could even workshop. Like, it's could just be like, yeah, hey, let's put this idea out there and see if people really like it. And if they really like it, then we'll do it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, after this what if, like, you figure out what people really, really like. Like,
yeah.
Let's say Captain Carter just, like, explodes and everybody's like, oh, my God, like, I want
that
more
would
of
be
this.
So
and like,
fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Wouldn't
And so it's kind of like,
kick so much ass. And everybody's like, yeah, maybe it would.
Yeah, so then at the end of this phase, whenever the multiverse of madness gets figured out, guess who's standing there on the one timeline? Captain Carter.
And at this point, like, we're not really 100% sure that multiverse of madness. I guess at this point we're assuming that multiverse of madness and Loki are connected in the sense that, they created a multiverse. But I mean, Doctor Strange could deal with something could be dealing with something completely different entirely.
It could, because Wanda's a big part of that.
Right.
And at the end of WandaVision, she's hearing her kids, which if these events are kind of happening at the same time, she could be hearing her kids as this spider web of events are happening.
Yeah.
And the kids she could be hearing could be mutants in a universe where mutants existed.
Yeah.
I thought what you're going to allude to is the fact that, with all these things branching off, every single Marvel thing that's ever happened is now canon. So your Spider-Mans with Tobey Maguire are canon. The ones with Andrew Garfield are canon. All your X-Men movies are technically canon.
Yeah.
Super Friends was...
that's DC.
The X-Men animated series. Technically,
the X-Men animated series. Blade.
Although I don't think we're going to get Wesley Snipes back.
I don't think so either.
He's creating his own Blade killer is what he's calling it, which I'm for. I'm going to see it, and I hope it's good.
I mean...
Did you catch, though, Richard, in the Loki series, we did get a very, very one-word, tiny drop, Easter eggy-ish thing to Blade.
No. What was...
when Owen Wilson's character is talking about is like, we've brought in Titans, we've brought in something else, and we've brought in vampires, and we've never had these issues before. Oh. Why is it Loki's? So they have dropped that there are vampires in this universe.
Well, I think this is a movie that everybody forgot, but there is still a Morbius movie floating around out there with Jared Leto.
Yeah, and that's got a lot of like references. It seems like multiple Spider-Man movies.
Yeah, the Morbius one is it's a Sony movie, which always struck me as odd. I'm like, how is Morbius? Because Morbius is considered a Spider-Verse character, which he was in Spider-Man, but. I don't know. I never really considered Morbius like a Spider-Man character.
Yeah, there's like a good Venn diagram out there that kind of shows which characters are owned, and that could have been part of the sell-off, or as these things started coming out, Sony maybe got their lawyers to be like, oh, okay, so like we didn't talk about these in the contract, but technically this is ours.
Yeah.
But I mean, Sony and Marvel have a pretty good working relationship, which I don't think they could keep this quiet for this long. But if you could tie in Venom to this somehow and Morbius, like if that's how they introduce Blade is in Morbius, oh my gosh, like I'd be down for that. 'Cause that Morbius movie with Jared Leto,
it didn't look bad.
Good.
It looked,
really good.
like I think we got like a 2.5 minute teaser for it. Like it didn't look terrible.
There's a pretty decent trailer.
I was interested in it, and I'm not really 100% sold on the new Venom, but the Morbius movie looked decent.
Yeah, I saw the Venom they came out with was okay for what it was. The new one looks okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But Morbius, I feel like I'm a big vampire fan to begin with.
Yeah,
so the original Blades I loved, except 3. 3 was a little rough. But like Blades one that I keep forgetting is coming out next year. Like next summer is when it's supposed to come out.
Supposed to.
And like to me, that feels like that could be my Guardians of the Galaxies. Like I'm not sure how the hell they're going to fit this into this universe to make it make sense. but I feel like they can, right? And this is where you're going to get your kind of.
I think Doctor Strange is going to set that tone as to whether or not that's doable, because I think if Doctor Strange doesn't have a degree of creepy to it, then I don't know how Blade's going to work.
Yeah, because I know they keep saying Doctor Strange is supposed to be more of a horror movie.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if that's where, and I'm sure they're already going to have Blade shot by that point when it comes out. But if that pushes the envelope a little bit and they kind of know how much further they can go with like a Blade,
yeah,
I'd be, like I want like a R-rated Blade, or at least close to it. I don't know if we'll get it or not, but.
So we got What If. What If is the next batter up to the plate. And then after that, I think is
Hawkeye, isn't it?
Is Hawkeye's October, right? I'm saying What If only goes until end of August, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't think there's a release date for Hawkeye yet.
Okay, so.
But I thought that was supposed to be a fall thing.
So
yeah,
what
late
if
2021 it's supposed to come out.
Okay, so What If is September, let's say What If ends like early September. That means you're not getting anything until theoretically Doctor Strange in November. That's a big gap.
Oh, but okay. I pulled that up because they had that really good Marvel release back in July.
Right.
And I've got something that has that pulled out. So we got Black Widow's already out.
Yep.
Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings.
That's right.
Yeah, there's a lot coming out, Richard.
I forgot about but Shang-Chi's September, right?
Yeah, so so we're going to have What If, then Shang-Chi.
Okay.
Then I'm guessing probably Hawkeye in October, then Eternals in November, Spider-Man in December.
Yeah, I forgot about
Hawkeye could be January or February because there's nothing between then two.
I'm gonna say Hawkeye will be late December. I'm gonna say Hawkeye is mid to late December, and the reason I say that is because on the other side you're gonna have Boba Fett, and they're not gonna compete against themselves.
When's Boba Fett come out? Is that December? Okay. So there's nothing January, February of 22, and then Doctor Strange is in March. So I could see like January, February being Hawkeye, like a lead up to Doctor Strange. But the thing on here said late 21, so maybe it could be October. I don't know. But shoot, Richard, I mean, we've got, like I said, Spider-Man in December.
Yep.
Doctor Strange in March.
Yep.
Thor in May. Black Panther in July.
Why did I keep thinking Doctor Strange was November? That's dumb. That's weird.
Eternals is November.
I'm
not excited for that.
I don't know. I'm with you. I don't know.
Then there's a big stretch in Marvels is the last one in 22. And then we get into Ant-Man and Wasp, Guardians 3.
Yeah. And I think it's totally not around anywhere, but maybe Fantastic Four at the very, 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 very end.
Yeah, that's probably your end of Phase 4. It's on here as a TBA.
Where's Moon Knight? I forgot. Where's Moon Knight in there?
Yeah, I was going to read. So they do have the Disney Plus series. So WandaVision, Falcon, Loki, What If in August. And these, they don't have specific dates, but late 21, Hawkeye. Late 21, Ms. Marvel.
Yeah.
And 22, Moon Knight.
Yeah.
22, She-Hulk. Late 22, Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special. Then 22, it says Secret Invasion. And then in the works, they have Ironheart, Armor Wars, and an untitled Wakanda series. God, there's just so much stuff coming out. Like you said, we had 20 off. We had 2020 off, and now it's just going to be nonstop.
It's funny. I think that after Endgame, I think their plan was like, okay, so we'll do Endgame, and then we'll tack on a Spider movie, and then we're gonna kind of like take a breather, let everybody collect themselves, and then it felt like their schedule was gonna be a bit more drip fed.
Yeah, like
but
I
then
think the
after
only
the
movie for 20
pandemic,
was
it feels after the pandemic, it feels like they're back on the same schedule they were pre-Endgame, where they're like, okay,
Yeah.
well, I
I
guess
think
we're
they're playing
putting
a little
out
catch-up.
a movie in the fall and a movie in the summer and a movie in the fall and a movie in the summer and a movie in the fall.
Well, and you have to think how like Black Widow was in the can.
Yeah.
How many of these other ones that they were pretty much like near post production.
Yeah.
And so like you can only sit on these movies for so long. You gotta get it going. But I was wanting to touch a little bit on Black Widow. So I really enjoyed it. I've only seen it once. I am gonna watch it again, I think with my father-in-law at some point. I did the Disney Plus.
How long do you have that for when you do it?
So it is going to be free on Disney Plus in like mid to late October. So I get it as long as I have a Disney Plus account. I can watch that whenever I want, and I can watch it as many times.
Basically,
as I want.
like you unlock it.
Yeah. So I don't own it, but I basically get like in video games where I get like a 90-day, what they call it, like a early access for 90 days kind of thing.
Yeah. I gotcha. Okay.
I think it was worth it for me, especially since my father-in-law and I are going to watch it because we probably spend about that much in the movie theater anyway. But the opening to this, one thing I think you'd like is they have a slowed down version of Teen Spirit, which I don't know who sings it, but there's a female singer that's doing it. And it's one of those things too, like that's a song when you hear it's a rock song, so it's very quick.
Yeah.
But when somebody starts singing it slow, you're singing along with it. You're like, I know this fucking song. What is this song? And then it clicks. But the main things that I think Black Widow really did well with, they touched on some subjects that like I don't think I really got until I sat back and thought about it, because there's very much kind of a topic of like, human trafficking and kind of like what that like would really kind of feel and look like. Because the first 10 to 15 minutes of this movie, when it's looking at like younger Black Widow and her younger sister, it's kind of uncomfortable.
Oh,
like you feel really icky watching it.
Ugh.
Like you feel like you're watching something that shouldn't be happening.
All right.
So it's that really kind of sets the stage for, I think, like just what the Black Widow character really kind of comes from. Family's a big topic on this too. I think they did a great job kind of talking about that, and not necessarily like blood family.
Not like the Toretto family?
No, better than that. Trust me.
Oh, family.
Family. We're no more than family.
I'm Groot family.
God. That's like, I don't understand, Richard, how we can have 9 Fast and Furious movies.
I don't.
That's a rant for a different day.
I'm with you. I am 100% with you there, bud.
I'll spoil this a little bit, I guess, because I think it was the story behind it. One, I think is kind of interesting. So they go and they break out Red Guardian, who is like their pseudo dad. It's basically their adopted dad in this scenario.
Yeah.
Because they need to figure out where the Red Room is. And they're giving him a lot of shit because like they really don't like him because he's kind of an asshole.
He is kind of an asshole.
And while he's talking to these 2 women, he's like, "Oh, are you upset because it's that time of the month?"
Oh no.
And apparently, like when that joke was written, I think Scarlett Johansson and the other lady, what's her name? Florence Pugh, is that who it is?
It sounds right.
Yeah, Florence Pugh. She was amazing in this too. Like by far, probably my top 5.
I heard she was good. I did hear that.
Oh my God, Richard! Like when she takes over as Black Widow. Oh, you said Jeff's kiss. I'm gonna say Florence kiss. So he says it to her, and apparently that was the line written. And she was like, "That I don't know how I feel about this." And they're like, "Well, okay, let that line go, but we're going to let Florence run with it." And she did the best, like, uncomfortable, like, make you feel like a piece of shit if you say something like that. Because he says it, and she's like, "Well, actually, when I was in the Red Room, they cut out my fallopian tubes, so I don't ovulate. I don't have any eggs." And she's like going into it very specifically. He's like, and she's like, "Well, I was going to go into more detail about this." He's like, And so it's the part of like, like guys are like, whenever women talk about that stuff, they're always supposed to be like, ugh.
Right.
But it was the fact that it was kind of playing on that chauvinist thing, but also a very tragic situation where these women didn't have a choice in this.
That's true.
They were taken as kids, made sterile because of this Black Widow program.
Yeah.
And there's a good little like, because it's kind of like, it's Marvel, you're like lighthearted, like, oh yeah, she really stuck it to that guy. Then you sit and think about it, you're like, oh shit, well, I just heard like a slowed down Nirvana song while people are being human trafficked against their will to be trained assassins. And they just told me that like only 1% actually survives the training.
Damn it.
And then they do the,
I'm depressed.
Man. Yeah. But Florence Pugh, I think, did amazing.
Nice.
Like I said, top 5 of my Marvel characters right now.
I like it.
And then the end credit on this, we get to see what her mission going forward is, which is going to lead right into our Hawkeye series coming up soon. I'm a big Hawkeye fan too.
You
and
are.
having her in there is going to be exciting. I can't remember who plays Hawkeye. What's his name?
Jeremy Renner.
Yeah. Oh, I'm a big Jeremy Renner fan too. So it's just going to be like,
As soon as I remember his name, I think he's awesome. That guy's fucking
basically
amazing,
when that show,
whatever his name is.
when that show comes out, Richard, like nobody bother me on Wednesdays.
Yeah.
I have to watch my Jeremy, my Florence, my new Black Widow, my Hawkeye.
With the guy.
With that guy.
He's fucking Hawkeye. Shut up.
But Richard, I guess kind of as we're tidying up this little Marvel 21 wrap up, what are some Richard's closing thoughts you have, or anything else you have to say?
I think that we went into this feeling very like, how the fuck are they going to top this? Like, I don't know, man. Like Mad Titan, fucking a gauntlet where you can snap your fingers and anything you want happens. Like basically a wish gauntlet and time travel. How the fuck are you going to top all that? That's a lot. It's a lot to do. And I feel like they kind of, I don't know if they're necessarily trying to top themselves, but I definitely think that they are telling a different story, not necessarily the same way, because I think that you and I have talked about this. Like when Iron Man first like kind of showed up, I think that I'm not sure. I don't think anybody really knew that it was going to be popular. And so there wasn't a puzzle to be had. There wasn't a puzzle to put together of like, there wasn't a bunch of guys in the writer's room at Iron Man going, so Iron Man happens and then will be this Incredible Hulk movie. And then that'll lead into 4 other movies that'll make a team movie. And then that team movie will, like, nobody thought that. Like that was like they can bullshit all they want. There was no way that anybody at Marvel Studios, which barely existed at that point, if it was
its own thing. It wasn't owned by Disney yet.
Yeah. There's no way that anybody at Marvel Studios, and I'm putting air quotes around it because it kind of wasn't really there. There's no way that anybody there was going, so when that movie comes out, then we're going to lay out this groundwork for 12 other movies for the next 10 years. And it's going to culminate in this big giant thing at the end. Nobody had that plan. That plan came later. But now we're seeing that again. But this time there's an actual plan in place. And so I am kind of curious where it'll go when you have, like, where the road's going to go when you already have the road paved.
Yeah, I'm curious if I feel like they're going to keep doing, like, I don't know if they necessarily have it completely planned out. I think they probably have, like, of the movies we know are in production, they have those, I think, identified and maybe some ideas going forward. But I've always felt like in the originals, they didn't have, like, they lucked out in any choice that they made or any mistake they made wasn't like detrimental to the whole project. They were all just like little happy mistakes.
Yes. I think,
and they were able to build off that.
I think that they, like, in their wildest dreams, I think that they were like, okay, we'll do all these other movies and that'll lead to an Avengers movie. But I think once, like, I think they're like at that time, best case scenario, they're like, okay, we'll do an Avengers movie at the end. But I think once they saw that, Hulk, I don't think did all that great, but like Thor did a lot better than expected. Iron Man 2 did really well. Iron Man, like, obviously like exceeded expectations. But Thor, Iron Man 2, Hulk, and then Captain America. But I think by the time we got to Captain America, I think that's when the plan was in place.
Yeah, that's probably when they started thinking, all right, we got phases.
Because Captain America was when we started talking about Infinity Stones. Or at least not talking about Infinity Stones, but Captain America was where you had the Tesseract, which, contains an Infinity Stone.
Which, again, like, was that like its initial intention? Or do you think it was just like, oh, well, there is this thing called an Infinity Stone that'll work in this plot device? And we're not going to call it that, but then they kind of like.
I think that maybe they might have gone. I think that the Tesseract was always going to be a thing. I think that there was a possibility it could have been in the comics. There was the Cosmic Cube. I think that it might have been something something similar to that. Whether or not they planned that there was going to be an Infinity Stone in it, I mean, who knows, but. I would say that by the time they got to Captain America, that's when okay, now we know what we're going to do, and we're going to make all these movies, and we're going to introduce and we'll put all these different characters in it. But it'll be interesting to see what Marvel does when they have things planned from the start.
Yeah, I feel like this is the bigger test because it's like from them getting from phase 1 to phase 3 is kind of them figuring out how to do it for the first time.
Yes.
This is them saying like, all right, well, you guys know how to do it.
Yeah. This is when okay, we know you're trying now.
Yeah. And don't make it a rinse and repeat type of thing. And so far they're not.
Yeah. Yeah.
But lots of stuff coming up. Sure. We'll do a lot of reviews. But if you don't have anything else, Richard, on your closing thoughts, we'll go ahead and do a little bit of housekeeping. All right, well, visit our website, we're languageofbromance.com. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at languageofbro. Email us at bros@languageofbromance.com. We also have a new group on Good Pods. It's a podcast listening app. It's on Apple and Android, so check that out and join our group. And we also want to thank our patrons. So if you want to join our Avenger group, like Wendy and Aaron, go to our Patreon account and join us.
You'll always be in our phase 4.
You'll always be on our timeline.
Yeah.
All right. Well, is there anything else before I close her out?
We love you and all your variants.
Yes. Even the alligator one.
Yep.
Even the old one. Even the kid one that killed its brother.
Yep. All of them.
That was dark. How'd you get here? I killed Thor. You're 8. Yeah. Smothered him with a pillow. Yep. That's awkward.
Oh, okay. Unless he was lying. They do.
That's true.
They do that.
All right. Well, that's all the Bromance have for this show. I'm Shawn.
And I'm Richard.
Remember, don't be a why.
Be a why not.
For all time, Richard.
Always.